Hello again, everyone. Thank you for being with us. And we are off to start. Welcome, everyone, to the Kalipso 6 launching webinar. It's official now. My name is João, and I will be your host for today. And in the name of the Kalipso team and also the SysDev team, we want to thank you for being with us today. We are very excited to introduce you to the next step in mobile development, and we truly believe that we are going to present here today will be revolutionary for your mobile projects. So let's dive straight into what brings us here. And first of all, as some of you already know, Kalipso is a trusted rapid application development platform built specifically for mobile solutions. We count on more than 500 partners worldwide, more than 10,000 applications built in Kalipso Studio, and more than 10 years of experience in mobile development. In fact, our company just celebrated 18 years old some days ago. Talking about Kalipso, with Kalipso, you don't need extensive coding knowledge. It's a low-code platform, drag and drop interface, and makes mobile development very simple. You can deploy to multiple operative systems without extra costs, and we provide built-in icons, templates, and resources for streamlined development. As a lot of you guys already know, we seamlessly integrate with different technologies like database connection, geolocation, barcode reading, RFID systems, printing, speech recognition, and much more. We also work in strategic partnerships with hardware manufacturers such as Zebra, Datalogic, Honeywell, Intermec, Urovo, CipherLab, Unitech, and many more. Learning from our customers. This is one of our great topics. We have close proximity with support, and in that way we can learn from you and we can implement what you need in our platform. Before we jump into the demo and learn what's behind Kalipso 6, let's introduce today's speakers. So we will have today with us Filipe Madureira, one of the masterminds behind Kalipso Studio's evolution, and Jorge Neves, focused on making Kalipso even more accessible and powerful for all of you. And now let's dive into the demo, into the live demo, and I believe all of you are really excited to see Kalipso 6 in action. Let's get started with Filipe Madureira, and he will show us what are the main differences between version 5 and version 6. Let's hear from him.
My name is Philippe. Thank you for attending this webinar presentation of the new version of Kalipso. The main idea is to show you what are the differences between the two versions of Kalipso, version 5 and version 6, that's the new version, and not to talk about the platform itself. I know that several of you do not know the platform, do not know Kalipso. So during this presentation, I will create a new project from scratch to show the products that I have on my database on an Android device. And I will test this application on my Android device. So you will be getting a feeling of how we work with the platform, what is the concept of Kalipso platform. So I will start by creating a new project, and as I create my project, I will be talking about the main differences in version 6, okay? So let's start. Let's create a new project in Kalipso. I will call it Webinar K6 for version 6, and I will save it in my desktop. I have a folder for this here, okay? So this is where I want to save my project. I will make it in English, okay? Kalipso is multi-language. We can make project in multiple languages, but we'll not talk. This is already present in version 5. And I will select a style, a theme for my project. I will talk in a few minutes in more detail about themes in version 6, but for now I'm going to select this green theme and I'll create my project. So This is the new environment in version 6. In terms of concepts, there aren't many differences. The same concepts that we had in version 5 are present in version 6. There was a few work done in the structure, in this tree on the left side. So in version 5, we have access to databases and communication profiles on the menu. Now they are directly available on the tree view. I can access databases, resources, JavaScript, web services, variables, etc. directly from this left side pane. So, what I want to show you also, just before starting to work, is the new Finder window that includes debugging tools that we will talk about later also, is detachable, so we can put this somewhere else if we want. This can be handy in some situations. Okay, let's close it, it's not important. And another cool feature in version 6 is about the automatic updates. Okay, so you see I have a warning here telling me that there's a new version. I could automatically update right now if I wanted. And if I want to know what are the differences between this version and the previous version, I can access it. And I can access the entire release history also. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's go back to our application. So let's start by creating some new windows, new forms to our application. And I'll select new form. And we have templates for our application. We have several pre-designed forms, windows, that we can just pick, or we can use a blank screen if we want. Okay, this was similar in version 5. Okay, so I want to start by creating a login screen. I will select this template, I like it. Okay, and I save it. Okay, I can create another form. I can create a form for my menu. I will select the static menu. Or if I don't like this one, I can switch to another template, for example, and select, I like this menu better, so let's create this one instead. Okay. What we can do is, I want, for example, to have a list of products. So let's use this template to show the products that I have. Okay, so you see, I'm creating my first screens in my application very quickly. I'm going to add a new form, form for showing the products details if I want. I selected the wrong form, new form. This is the one I want. Okay. Okay, and we can also have an about screen if we want. Okay. So you see that I am basing the start of my project on the concept of templates. I did not create windows from scratch. Something that's very interesting for you is if you make many applications and you always have a similar structure throughout your different applications, you can create your own templates to have here. A template in Kalipso, I'm going to show you. If you look here, I have two templates, Smart Classic, Smartphone Classic, and Smartphone Modern. If I go to the templates folder in my Kalipso, you can see that these are the templates. And if I select one, this is nothing more than a regular Kalipso project, regular Kalipso application. So if you want to make your own template, all you have to do is create a new project in Kalipso, create forms, don't put any code because templates do not use code. Just design your own forms like you always do in your applications. Put it here, your Kalipso project in the templates folder, and it will become available here. So when you're making other projects, you can use the pre-created forms that you've done yourself. Okay? So this is very interesting to speed up some of your work. And another cool feature that we have in version 6 are guidelines. So when we are creating controls and we want to get them all perfectly aligned, for example, if I created this control right now, I could leave it like that. It was not aligned with this one. But now in Kalipso 6, we have these guidelines that help me perfectly align what I want. If you see, when I'm moving, guidelines show up telling me what is the alignment of close by controls. Okay, so we get a much better looking application with everything perfectly aligned. Okay. And another cool feature that we have in Kalipso 6 is something that we call Media Explorer. We can access it here. In Media Explorer, we have several icons in Kalipso that you can use and that are pre-built. And we are going to be creating new icon templates also to give you to our customers. And there are many things we can do with this Media Explorer. For example, I want to put icons on my main menu, but I don't want them to be black, like the ones we're giving you. So I'm going to change the color of my icons. I prefer to use something in this kind of color. Okay. And so now Media Explorer will go through these 2000 icons, more than 2000 icons, and change them to blue so I can use the icons in the color that I want in my project. So let's just wait a couple of seconds. Okay. A lot of icons, over 2000 icons in this fluent field. Okay. And as you can see, now the icons are blue and I can use them in my application. And there are more things that we can do. We can edit them. If, for example, I would like to use this icon, but it's not like how I wanted it to be. For example, I want this icon. I double click it and I enter in an edit mode where I can change it. I can change its color if I want. I would like this icon to be green. Or I can change not the color. I would like it to be inside a circle or a square with round corners or a straight square. So I want it inside a circle, but I want the outside circle to have a different color. And I can make even a border if I want. Put a border around it. Or not. I can rotate the icon if I want. Okay? I can add shadows with Kalipso now. I can increase the size of the shadow. And, for example, let's cancel this. Imagine I have this option and I want to change it. I would like to have a plus sign here to add a new record, a new customer record, for example. So I could come here in an overlay and say, I want this to be here, but I can see it because it's the same color. So let's put it inside a circle. Okay, good. It would be cool if it was green. It is to add a new record. Okay, great. And we can increase its size. Okay, new record here. Also, I can add a shadow to this icon if I want. Okay, many options that we have here to work. And I can make it more explicit and say with a text, it's a new record. Okay, and I want it inside a square. And I want it very big. Let's increase the size of our text. And would be also green color text. And let's say I want to rotate it. Okay, so you see, we can compose our own icon with text, with another icon, or with both if we want to keep both options. So we can build these icons that I'm going to use in my application. Let's do it something different. I want the text to be green and not the background. This doesn't look good. Okay. Okay. So now I've created my icon and I can save it. I'm going to call it my new record. And I'm going to add text to it. New and record or customer. So I'm adding text to it, and I'm going to save it. So I'm creating my own icon collection, and later on I can search icons that I created with the text that I associated to the icon. Okay? So this is a powerful new tool that we have inside Kalipso. That's the Media Center, and that allows us to work with icons, change them, customize them, add overlays, add text, and make a lot of more options on them to use in our application. And for example, now, for example, in this menu, I want to put here a button to open the list of products. So, but I don't like this icon, so I'm going to change that. Okay. And now, in here, where I define the content of the image, I have the option to select one that I already have on my hard drive, or just open the Media Explorer and say, well, let's use, for example, a barcode icon. This is the one I want. Okay? So you see, now I've used the one icon from the Media Explorer, and I'm going to say, to program this button here, I'm going to say, when I click it, show the form looper that has my list of products. So this menu is done. So now I'm going to do this icon. I want to open the about, for example. So, and you see in version 5, when several controls were overlapping, it was hard to select the one I want. So now I just can click them, and it goes changing between the different controls that we have overlapped in the designer. So, and for the about icon, I'm going to use the Media Explorer to give a press effect, okay? So it doesn't be static. And I can do that with shadows, it's very easy. So in my image, I'm going to select the button effect with a second image. And I'm going to use the Media Explorer to do this. So let's find here an icon for that. I want to use this icon. Great. But like this is not good, I want to put it inside a circle. Better. And I want to add a shadow to it. Okay, good. And I'm going to decrease its size a little bit so it fits inside. Okay. So this is going to be with a shade behind it. My icon, I'm going to call it question. I'm going to save it. And I'm going to use it there. And now, for the preset state, I'm just going to say Media Explorer. Let's edit my question icon. Remove the shade or decrease it. And I'm going to call it question press. Now I'm going to say use this one. So you see the two icons I have? I created them very quickly with Media Explorer. And it's there. And now let's test the application in my local machine to see the final result. But for that, I need to program this button to open the menu. So let's do that. Show form menu. And let's program this to open the about screen. Show form about. And to finish, I'm going to say when I click here, I want to close the form. And same here. Okay, to finish, only this one. And our application is almost finished. Let's test it in our local machine. And now if I click here, I go to the menu and I don't see anything. Why? Because things are on a different plane. So in Kalipso 6, we also have a new thing, a new helper to navigate through planes. You can see this. When I select this form, I can see the planes here. And I've put everything in plane 1. If I go to plane 0, I don't see anything. So I need to tell my application to start in plane 1. And you can see that this new plane navigator, okay, it's very handy, that you can use page up and page down like you did before, okay? So things are in plane one. This is what I want. So let's program this window that when it opens, go to plane one. And if I test again, log in, you see, goes to the about, and it doesn't make the press effect because it's in the background. But if I put it, so if I move this to the back, and then I test again, I want to show you the press effect. Okay, let me just close this. Okay. Sorry, let's do it again. So you can see the button effect that I created with Media Explorer. Log in, and you see that when I press it, I have this pressing effect just using the shadow from the Media Explorer. Okay? And since we're talking about the environment, when I maximize this form, there's also a new way to navigate through the forms of my application that are these tabs on the top. Okay? It's very cool. And we also have something that's zoom. We can zoom in now. Okay? Even in this state, I can zoom in and zoom out. Okay? So it's better when we are perfectly aligning everything. Okay? It's much easier to work with zoom. Another of the new features that we have in Kalipso. So to finish my first application, I just like to show here the list of products that I have. So the first thing I'm going to do is connect to my own machine where I have the database server. I'm going to call it Philippe. And I'm going to put in my IP address. Okay, I have an encrypted connection. Okay, I'm not going to go through the details. This is the same that existed in version 5. Okay, so basically now I'm going to connect to a new database. I'm going to connect using OLEDB, it's easier. Okay, this is the database I want to use. I log in. And I want to use an online application for this demonstration. Okay. So now I'm going to say what tables I want to use. I'm just going to select the products table. Okay. It's a simple demonstration that I want to make in this webinar. So I want only this table. Okay. Now, the only thing that's missing here is to load this with my products. So going to zoom in, it's easier to work. I don't want this. I'm going to delete it. I just want to show here the product description. So I'm going to change the name so I know what this is. This is the label with the description. And this is the label with the price. I want to show the product price. Let's put it in bold and a bit bigger in size. Okay. Okay. So this is what I want to show my products. So I'm going to connect this to the database. It's very simple. I'm going to say that this is connected to a table. And from my products table, I want to show the name in the label description. And from my products table, I want to show the price in label price. It's done. So I can zoom out again. It's finished. And I'm just going to say when the form opens, refresh the content of the refresh the content of this looper. Okay. So now let's test the same application on my Android device. I have an Android device here. Okay. I'm going to use this option here to directly test on my Android device. I can have multiple Android devices connected and select here the one I want to test it on. I want to test it on this one, so I'm going to, oh, I think it disconnected because it was moved around too much. Let's reconnect. Okay, here it is. And I have this to show the screen of my device. Okay. So my application now, you see what you're seeing, it's what's running on my Android device. I can run it, okay? And I can see the products list, and it's done, okay? So my application now is showing the list of products that I have on my database running on my Android device. So let me see what else I want to show you during this demo. Okay, so to finish this first part of my presentation, I'd like to talk to you about something that we also have that's been reworked a little bit around themes. So I'm come to the conclusion that I do not like this green environment. Let's try to change this. I'm going to say, well, this green did not work very well. Let's go to the themes and see what else do I have. Maybe this one would look better. Let's try it. Okay, much better. So my application with a simple click it has changed its theme, its look into blue, from green to blue. It's very easy to work with themes now in version 6. It's even easier than in version 5. And I can even edit the theme if there's something that's not yet perfect like I want. If I do not like this blue, I would want something a little bit darker. I could try it like this. Oh no, it's too dark. I don't want to change it. But if you want, you can also, let me just talk about this like while we're still talking about themes. You can change it the way you want and maybe say, no, I like this blue color. I want to change the bottom to also blue. Okay, let's try like this. And you see that we have this divided in 4 different sections: header, subheader, body, and footer. And you can also go to the detail of creating your own custom styles, for example, for a label, if you want. You could have custom style and say my label will have these specific properties for headers, okay? And you can do this for every control in Kalipso. But this is for more advanced designers. For most of us, especially for me, this that I have here is more than enough for most of my applications. And this concept of sections is available in the application. If I save this, that you see now that in my menu, I also have a bottom bar because it's enabled. If I don't want it, I can just remove it. And that bar disappeared, but the icons are still there, okay? So you can enable and disable the different sections just with a simple click, okay, on your forms. And if I don't want any, I say, just leave me an empty screen with all the controls over there. Okay, so it's very easy to work with this concept now in Kalipso 6. Okay, and as it happened with templates, you can create your own templates. You can also create your own styles. Okay, so if I go to themes, it's possible for you to create your own themes. Okay, and put them here and use them in your applications. Okay, so to finish, before ending up this first session, I'm just going to do something. I'm going to create a bug in my application. So later on, I'll show you how I'm going to debug it. So to finish, I'm going to get a new icon here. Okay, I'm going to put, but I don't want to do it like this. I want to change it to white. Let me change this to white. Okay, I'm going to save it. Okay, now I'm going to use it here in this one. Okay. So Oh, sorry, I closed this. I wanted to add a new icon here, and when I press it, I want to get the average price of the products that are here on this list. Let's program this very quickly. So for the new guys that don't know Kalipso, just get a little feeling of how we develop in Kalipso. It's very easy. And I'm going to leave a bug in it. Okay, so I'm just going to say when I click on there, I'm going to use a couple of variables. I am going to use a variable for the index of the looper, I mean, the current row, the item count, how many items I have in my list. Let's have one for average price and have another variable just for current price. So in Kalipso, how do I create an algorithm to get the average price? It's very easy. I start by setting the value of my average price variable to 0. Now I'm going to get the item count on my list of products into the variable item count. Now I'm going to create a loop over all of the items, a for loop. Very easy to do. I'm going to use the index variable, and how I'm going to say, what is my condition? Well, while the index is smaller than the item count, increase the index. Very easy. Basic loop. Okay. I've changed my code with a drag and drop. Let's put this here. Okay, now I'm going to get the current price from the current row. So from the label price in the current index, get its value into this variable, current price. And then just set value, the average price is the average price plus the current price. And to finish, a message box with the price. Not this one, average price. Okay, let's test our application. I want to test it on my Android device. There's disconnected apparently. Let's try to reconnect it. Okay, let's test it. I'm going to open the screen where we can see it. So if I click on it, it tells me this is the average price. It's incorrect. We will fix this later using the debugger. You already see some information here about the debugger. So, to finish, I'm going to send this to GitHub. So George, that is going to continue with the presentation to show you some more new things that we have in Kalipso 6, will work with this project. So, I'm going to send this project to GitHub. I will talk about Git in more detail later. Okay, Git is in beta at this point, but it will be final very soon. So I'm going to create a Git repository, and I want to send it to this GitHub account. Okay, to this Git repository. Create. I'm connected, so I'm going to commit, and I'm going to say, this is my first version. Okay. I'm going to commit, and now I'm going to send it to the server. Done. So now in GitHub, the project is available for my colleague George to continue working on this project and continue working with his presentation. The Kalipso project is here on GitHub now. Okay? So I'm going to pass on to George, and in a few minutes I'll come back to show you more details about Git and debugging. Okay? So see you in a minute.
Great, Philippe. Thank you very much to show us this great potential in Kalipso. And to everyone that's still with us, almost everyone still with us, we are just starting. This is the beginning, and not to lose more time, because after this we have a lot of questions to answer from you. Some of them are already answered, some of them might be answered in the next part with George. But not to waste more time, I will pass to George, and he will show you a lot of stuff from properties and controls.
Thank you, Philippe, for that introduction to Kalipso version 6. I'm George Neves, and I'm going to take you guys through some new properties and some new controls. These new properties are going to help you make even better applications, okay? So, for starters, I'm going to pick up the project where Philippe left. So, instead of just opening a project, I'm going to do something a little bit more advanced, which is I'm going to open the repository that Philippe created and uploaded in its previous presentation. So I'm going to press open, just wait a little bit for Kalipso to fetch the repository. He's going to create it locally, and you're going to have access to the project exactly as it was. Just a few seconds for him to render, and there you go. So one of the things that we introduced in this new version was a refresh on the tasks feature. This refresh allows you to work more efficiently. So I'm going to start by registering my ongoing tasks or my to-do tasks. So my first task is regards swipe to refresh. And what I want to do is I want to enable swipe to refresh on products form. Save it, and now I'm going to add the second one, which is the scroll snap. It's going to be also cool to check out how this works. But basically the same thing. I want to enable scroll snap, and that suffices for me. So I know the rest of the description. Now, the coolest thing here is it's pretty clear what you have to do, what you are doing, and what you've done. And this can be created by anyone. So I'm going to say currently I'm doing, sorry, not the scroll snap, but the swipe to refresh. That's it. So let's overview the swipe to refresh. I'm going to go to this form and more specifically this looper. And I'm going to enable the swipe to refresh feature. Now this by itself doesn't do nothing except triggering a new event, which is the refresh requested. So when the refresh requested event is triggered, all you have to do is refresh the control. This is something that Kalipso users are familiar with. So looper 1, save, and save. That's it. Now let's see how this works on my device. So I'm going to test. I'm going to bring the screen up. We just wait a few seconds for him to send it to the device. There it is. Now I'm going to log in. And when I pull it down, as you can see, it brings that refresh indication and it runs the refresh control. So 5 seconds to set up, and you have a very common feature for users that they feel comfortable with. The second thing I want to show you is on the same looper, we want to enable the scroll snap. But enabling the scroll snap, it's something that should be used when your entire cell occupies the entire looper. So instead of using this one, I'm going to duplicate this looper. Or better off, I'm going to duplicate the entire form. And I'm going to rearrange the interface. So I'm going to increase my cell area, just reposition a few controls here to make it more real. I'm going to put this image to the center, make it bigger also. So you see that we have a few guides here to help us align everything. So all set up on my interface. I'm going to go to this looper and enable the scroll snap. Okay, and I just remember I finished my swipe to refresh task and I didn't set it as done, and neither I started my scroll snap. So at any point on your application now, we can access this menu and we have shortcuts here. In this case, I'm going to go to tasks, I'm going to say swipe to refresh is done, and I'm going to start doing the snap. That's it. After this, I'm going to save. I'm going to use one of these available menu buttons to open this new form. So I'm going to do show form. Looper 1, save, and let's restart the application. Let's wait for it. Here it is. So logging in. Now this new menu button, as you can see, it's full screen, and look how it behaves. I'm gonna scroll, and if I drop it in the middle of a transition between two elements, it snaps back to the one that it's most visible. If I do it this, it will snap to the second one, which was the most visible, and so on and so on. So your content always remains on the screen, and you don't have those in middle elements, which feels ugly, of course. So that's it about the scroll snap. Very easy to use also, but our loopers still have one more feature for us to look into, which is also very helpful. If you guys are Kalipso users, going to love this. So this is called, and I'm going to go back to the original looper we had. This is called the propagate click event. So this option is going to allow me to not be worried about capturing the click event on each object. What does that mean? Well, that means that if I go to the actions of this looper and simply say, okay, whenever the user clicks this, I want to show the form to display the data from this record. So to be able to do that, I'm going to make it the full example. I'm going to add up a target for the column of the product code. I'm going to store it in label description hidden value. Okay. So this will allow me to get the product code. I'm going to start by doing a get property. So I want from label description to get its hidden value into temporary variable 0. Now I'm going to show form the form, and I'm going to feed local variable 0 from that local form with temporary variable 0, which holds my product code. Okay. Now the form we are talking about is this one. Let's add up some actions also for this all to make sense. So I'm going to go to its actions, For starters, I'm going to rename the variable to make it easy for me to remember which one I'm going to use. I'm going to call this int product code. And now on the opening of the form, I'm going to make a select. I'm just going to retrieve one of the columns so we don't waste time with that. So just get me the name of the product into text box 1, where my product code matches what I have on my local variable in product code. So all set up. Let's try this out to check out the issue that we're going to face. My screen again. So the problem that we face is that if I click here, I'm clicking on the label, and the same thing goes here, and the same thing goes here on the image. So I said I want to show the form if I click on the looper cell, which is basically this empty area. So when I have controls on the looper cell, they capture the events themselves. So to solve this issue, all we have to do now in version 6 is to propagate the click event. So when a click event occurs on a child control of the looper cell, it's going to be forwarded to the looper itself. Let's restart the application. Nowadays, I prefer to use the test on Android instead of the device because it's the same speed, and I get the debugger, which Philip's going to talk later, and I think it's pretty cool for debugging. So actually, I'm using always the Android device to test my application. Now look, when I click, regardless of the area, it behaves exactly as I expected. It opens my form to edit the product that I've selected. So that's it for the propagate click event. To close up the looper properties, there's another cool feature, which is how do you stylish the selection on your looper. Now, we have a lot of options there, and I'm going to just make an example out of it so that you guys can check out how it works. This is something very common, which is I'm going to add a shape to my looper cell. I'm going to make a white line around it. I'm going to enable the corner radius to make it look better. Now I just have to resize my shape. And when I get to my looper, check this out. Now we have a style section, and I can say, look, I want you to change the background whenever I select an item to, why not, some kind of orange. And I can do this to the entire looper cell, which is basically a rectangle or the shape that you give it, a rectangle or a square. But I can also apply to one of the controls. In this case, shape number 1. Let's see how this looks. Forgot to click the OK. Again, on our form, and now whenever I click it, and let me just go back to see how the selection was. See, perfectly stylish as you want in a very, very, very simple way. Now, to sum it up, the looper changes. I want to mention 3 new actions that I'm not going to demonstrate. Feel free to test them out. The first one is the looper find. Similar as you would do in a data grid, where you would look up for a value on a column, you can now look up for a value on any property of a control of the looper. So the action is called looper find. Okay. The other 2 actions are the get scroll position and set scroll position. Why are they important? Well, because sometimes you want to refresh things with a timer, for instance. So you want to display data on either a looper or a data grid that is constantly being refreshed. Now, you can position yourself on the record, but you could not keep the scroll in the exact same position. Now, this is possible if with a simple algorithm, you just get the scroll position, make the refresh, and then just restore the scroll position with set scroll position. That would bring the item into view where it was before, if no order has changed, of course, but not only the item, but the exactly same position. Okay? Now, let's go talk about a new control that we have, which is called the progress bar. For that, I'm going to create a new form. I'm going to make an empty one. I'm going to call this form progress. I'm going to bring it here to an empty area. I'm going to copy one of these buttons. Yeah, one of these titles. Copy, so I get the same interface here. Okay. Now, all I have to do is to drag my progress bar here. I'm going to make a demo with it, so it's not going to be a real case scenario. We don't have time for that, but I think you guys are going to understand exactly how this works. So I'm going to say that the max value of it is 10. This is going to be important in a few moments. I'm going to position my progress bar. Again, the guide's here to help me out. I'm going to add a label for the description of what we are doing. I'm going to call it label progress. Just say this is going to be step something. Just have some text. See how it looks. Here it is. Okay. Perfect. Now, in the opening of the form, so we go to the actions of the form. I'm going to make a for each statement using a for from 1 up to 10. So this is going to do 10 times, and the max value that I've stated on that I've inputted on the progress bar, and I'm going to do a set value of the progress bar to the value on temporary variable 0. I'm going to do basically the same thing, or more or less the same thing, for the label. So I'm going to say that label progress is going to be step temporary variable 0. Save it. And to simulate the processing of something, I'm going to pause my application for a second. Now, when everything is done, I'll make a final update to my label for done. That's it. Now, for make it easier for us, I'm going to set this form as the first one. Let me look for it. Set as first form. Here it is. And we're going to try our application again. We can switch back the first form at any time. This is just to make it easier for us to access the feature. Now it's going to show up, and you're going to see it, the progress growing, one step at a time. I just made a mistake here because step isn't updating, so for sure, just make us notice what I've done wrong. Well, everything looks okay. Maybe the width isn't enough. Let's see if that's the case. Restart. Move the screen back. Here it is. So it didn't have enough width to display the number, the step that we were on. That's it. You have for a progress bar. Now, we have some properties that are common to all of the controls that I think that are important to mention. One of it is the rotation. This is something that you can apply to any object. So, for instance, you want to make a banner, a vertical banner with some text. Just grab a label or any other control, like I said before, and let's rotate it to actually minus 90 degrees. Now, all I have to do is to position it here on my left. And there you go. Some trouble to resize it. And there you go. So pretty easy. This is available for any object. Now, another thing that I think is worth mentioning, it's regarding the borders. We have a feature now, whenever you customize a border, in this case, as a rectangle, nothing changed because basically I haven't done anything except that the default of the customized border puts me a border on black that I can change. But the point is, I can now shift the content of a control regarding its border. That feature is called the border padding mode. So I'm gonna take this off, but I can still decide how much space I want between the content and the border itself. So my left edge, remember this is rotated, so my left edge is here. I'm going to pull it like 10 pixels up. See? So now my content is spaced from the left edge by 10 pixels. So you can use this for whatever you want. Either just to make some spacing, either when you want to enable rounded corners. So let's specify radius here and just pull things from the corners, whatever you want. Okay? So this is available for all the controls, just like I mentioned before. This is also cool for another type of feature that users like to do. Let me show you. I'm going to add up a new image. For this new image, I'm going to pick a picture. So I'm going to get a new picture that I have here on my desktop, not my Dropbox, but my desktop, where it is, here it is. Okay, so here's a picture of me. And this is how it's going to look. Just a regular rectangle picture. Now, if I want to turn this into like a badge with a circular border, all you have to do is say customized circle. But, and this is the behavior you all know of, our picture goes automatically inside the circle. But since we have the border padding mode, we can simply say, just a click, none. And that's it. The content is cropped to fit the shape of the border. And if for any reasons you don't want a border, just set it to 0, and that's it. Still have the same circular shape. Okay? Good. Now, moving on to some new features on another control. In this case, the media player. I'm going to, again, create a new form. Let's call this form media player. be needing to leave this this form, so I don't need any other controls except the media player itself. So I'm going to position here a new media player. I don't want this media player to play media. I'm going to actually use this media player to preview the barcodes that I'm going to scan. So I'm going to say I don't want to display any controls on this media player, so no play, pause, nothing like that. So just adjust the position of our media player. Better, that's it. Great. And now I'm going to make a label, and this label is going to show me the barcode that I'm going to scan. Or better off, the barcode that will be scanned. I'm going to call this barcode. That's it. Let me just pull it into place. A little bit bigger. That's it. There you go. Now, how do I make my media player display what I'm scanning? In the opening of the form, I'm going to set the camera preview. This is a new action. Sorry, camera set preview. The other way around. And I'm going to say that I'm going to display the camera preview on media player 1. And although this is the default, very important, allow to scan. After this, I'm going to do exactly as you guys usually do to scan a barcode. I'm going to make a barcode enable. And I'm going to say that the target of the data is going to be my label barcode and save it. Very important. If I leave it like this, I'm going to scan one barcode. And for demo purposes, I want to keep on scanning. So for that, I need to say whenever a barcode is scanned, I want to enable the scanner again. Because in this feature, when the barcode is scanned, you will disable the barcode scanning automatically, okay? That's the only issue. So, set the first form for us to test, make it easier again, stop my application, run it again, bring the device up. Let's see how this behaves. Now, I have a notebook here with a lot of barcodes, okay? So, I'm going to pick it up. As you can see, you can start looking at the camera, and there you go. You can see that he's continuously scanning the barcode. Okay? Very easy to use. So what I want to mention now is that this feature is using Android ML Kit. Android ML Kit, it's the Android Machine Learning Kit, which is the new default for decoding barcodes. Zishing is still available though, okay? The other thing that I want to mention is that, I don't know if you notice on the action, I'm going to just bring it up to make it easier to remember. Actions. Another setting is, I can allow photos when I do the camera set preview. This means that I can also use this control for taking pictures. So instead of bringing those default screens for camera capture or for barcode reading, we can use the media player. So for both situations, this set camera preview allows you to use the media player control. That's it for new features on the controls and new controls. Okay, I'm gonna finish it up my project by committing my changes. I'm going to make a very simple description, new features, okay? Commit, and I'm going to push this to the server. A few seconds, and that's it. Now, my changes are stored on the server. Later on, you're going to see Philippe picking up these changes and integrated on its project. Thank you for watching, and see you in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, George. What exciting properties and controls, what exciting features. Before passing to the other part, thank you everyone for still being with us. The room is still full, so sorry for some sound difficulties, but I believe that we are all in for this. And for us, in order for us to have time after to talk about questions and answers and all the questions that you sent us, I will pass the word to Philippe. Philippe will talk now with us about Android Debugger and Git.
Hi again. Now I am going to talk about new features inside Kalipso Designer that are intended to help the developer doing its work and not in adding new features to the app itself that we're creating. So the idea is, how can I help the developer be more productive in doing when creating an application? So for debugging an application, I can still use the old legacy simulator. It still runs like it did in version 5 with the trace window, the variables window, etc. But now we have a new Android debugger directly integrated into Kalipso Studio, into Kalipso Designer. So in Kalipso, I can debug directly my Android device. I have it here. And we are going to develop the application as it runs on the device. So before starting, I want to debug this button code. I'm going to add a breakpoint here and another one here. So now I want to test my application on the device. So let's run it. We can see its window here. This is the display of the device screen, okay? So now, if we test the button that has the problem, and I click on it, you see a new window popping up in the designer. Let me minimize this. So Designer detected that a breakpoint was hit on the device. The code execution is paused on the device. I can put my mouse here and it will tell me this action has not been executed yet on the device. So if I press this button, step over, this was executed and it returned at 0. So this set value originated as 0 to this variable. Let's test again. This has not been executed yet. Step over. What happened? I can put my mouse here and it tells me this returned 12. So now my variable item count should have the value 12. And I can continue in testing this. And I can see this was not executed yet. What happens if I execute it? I get a value of 10.05. Okay, let's continue. So as you can see, the debugger is running step by step on the device to help me trace my problem. And if I click here, it should run until the next breakpoint. And as you can see, this action has not been executed yet. And since it's not executed, I do not know the content of this variable. So I click here, and I can see what is the content of all the variables in my application, including the temporary, and I can see that the average price is this. It's not correct. I should have divided by 12 the item count, so I need to fix my application. So let's click continue. On the device I get the message box, and now I am not going to close the application on the device. I will leave it running. So if the application is still running on the device, I'm going to fix the code. I know what the problem is now. I'm going to add a set value to this variable and divide it by the item count. Okay, so this is the new version of my code. and I want to test it. So instead of closing the application and starting from the beginning, so if you've used Kalipso and other development tools, and you have like 10 steps until you get back to where you were, you have to make a new login, go to the menu, make a new document, etc., to reproduce the problem, and you lose a lot of time doing all these steps. So now I can simply click on Hot Reload, and as you can see here on the device, it says Project Updated. And if I click on the button, I go back to Kalipso Debugger with the new code applied. And if I click Continue until the next breakpoint, okay, it tells me this has not been executed yet. And if I run it, now I have the correct value, what I was expecting from my application. And I can continue the execution, and on device, I get the correct value on the message box. So as you can see, now we can use the hot reload feature to instantaneously apply code changes to my application. So if I make simple code changes to the application, I can use this hot reload option. It's faster because it only sends new code to the device. So if I click here, this is a slower version that also updates the current windows, the current forms of the device. So if I do something like this, I will move this button here to the left side. If I do a code hot reload on the device, nothing happened. But if I do this option, it will also update the user interface, and the button is now in the new position. If I put it back to where it was, and I do hot reload user interface, I can see the final result. And you see that the text, the content also changed to what's in the designer. So I could simply go back and open again and see the refreshed values. Okay? So the hot reload is a very cool feature to help us test small bugs that we have in our application without having to restart everything from the beginning. Okay? It saves a lot of time, this feature. It's very cool. And there are a couple of new features also in the debugger. If you look here, we have this output window that shows me what is happening in every step, in every execution of code on the device. Okay? I can see what happened here. I can see what happened here. And I can also run queries on the database from the device or an online database. Okay? So if I do this on the device database or on MySQL server, run this query. Okay, and now I have the result. Is this query was actually executed by the Android device, by Kalipso on the device, and the result was sent back to the designer. So whatever I run here, it's the device that executes. Okay? So this is also improved in relation to Kalipso 5. We can now make any query directly from the designer on the local or online databases. Okay? And I can also check the content of the variables on the device in this variables window. It's all integrated now for Android. And when we are debugging, let me show you a few more things. When we are debugging, I'll click here. When this is open, I can also evaluate expressions. I can see the content of the temporary variables, okay, like this. But if I want to know, okay, if I change this to multiplication, for example, I can test what is the result of doing this. On the device, the result, I need to change it to numeric. Okay. Evaluate. So on the device, this gives me 0, and it's correct because the code is here. Now, if I go to this point and run it, okay, try it again. Now the result is this because the variable's contents have changed. So I can test executing different expressions to fix whatever needs to be fixed, okay? So it's a very powerful feature, okay? And we can test everything. I can test what would be the result of calling this function, system time. What would it return? It would return this, okay? So, and this is being executed on the device with the variables that are currently on the device. And another cool thing that we have is now for handling JSON. So if you remember, in version 5, for example, I want to put this JSON in a variable. I would copy, go to Kalipso, do double quote, paste, double quote, and it wouldn't work because the string that we're putting also has double quotes, okay? In Kalipso 5, we would fix this by replacing. I don't know if you used it before, but I did it a lot. I would replace like this to put this variable for double quotes. And now in Kalipso, I can use it like this. And it works. I can test it. But it's not practical. So, in the new version, we can simply copy the value and use a single quote. And Kalipso will accept it. Okay? So the new concept is this. You can use single quotes or double quotes for strings. Okay? If I use a single quote, I can then insert double quotes wherever I want. And it will work. Okay? For handling JSON, now it's much easier. And another feature I want to talk to you about, something that we changed in Kalipso 6. So if I have this expression, let me just... In version 5, operator priority was not applied. In version 5, it was always a sequential application. So this in Kalipso 5 will be the equivalent to this. Okay? If I test it, it returns 21. In Kalipso 6, operator priority is applied correctly now. Okay? So I can do this and have this code, this operation executed first. This is a good change in version 6. And if you are thinking about, okay, what will happen if I migrate an application I have in Kalipso 5 to Kalipso 6? Does that mean that it will start working in a different way? No, it will. It will not. It will not work differently. So if you have a project in Kalipso 5 and you convert it to version 6, everything will work like it did in version 5 until you edit the expression and save it again. Then Kalipso will apply priority in the operations. Okay? So be mindful of this, that if you convert projects, we don't expect that anyone had this and expected it to return 21. If you did, you would probably do it like this. Okay? But if you for some reason did this, it will work like it did in version 5. It will return the same value until you edit the expression manually. Okay? So, this is the new features that we have in Kalipso in version 6 with for debugging the application. We will talk about it later, but will work in the future in having also a debugger like this for iOS and for Windows. Okay? But for now, this advanced debugger is only for Android. Okay? Stop your application. Okay, so now I want to talk about Git a little bit more. If you notice, we have a new option here. It says Git beta. So Kalipso 6 is in the final stage. It's ready for you to use. You can use it in our projects. The Git integration is still in the beta state. Okay, so we have tested it and it's working. But we still need to make more tests to be sure that everything is okay. If you test them yourselves Please give us feedback if you find problems or bugs or something that we have forgotten. Okay, give us feedback, please, and we will try to finish this very quickly. But I will show you how it works, what's the concept of Git integration in Kalipso. And if you are going to use this, you need to be aware of what Git is. Okay, I'm not going to teach you what it is Git, what's a commit, what's a branch, what's a push, what's a pull, etc. So if you want to use Git, learn what it is if you don't know what it is. Okay, and we can do something very cool, that it's having multiple persons working on the same project. Okay. So I have fixed a bug here, and now I'm going to commit this bug fix. Okay. Now I want to send it to the server. And it tells me, well, you cannot do that. The remote branch is ahead. What does this mean? Well, George was working before me on the same project, and he sent his changes to the server. And I don't have them. You see here, I don't have the changes made by George. So the server is telling me, first, import the work done by George into your project, and then send me the new version. So let's do that. Okay? I'm going to pull the changes that he did. Kalipso is merging, and now it's opening a new version of my application. And in this version of my application, I have the work that was done by George, and I should have here the fixed version of my code. Here it is. This is the fixed version of my code. So Kalipso automatically merged the two versions of the project into a final version and made it ready. And now I can push it to the server, and it was accepted. Okay? Successfully push it. So now in GitHub, there is a new version that has everything done by George and by me. Okay? And this all worked very well because there isn't any conflict. What do I mean that there isn't any conflict? So it means that we did not change the same exact thing. Okay? If we do that, Kalipso will open a window and telling us there's a conflict that needs to be solved. Okay? So I'm going to give you 3 examples of conflicts so you know how you handle them in Kalipso. But in real life, in real projects, production projects, please avoid creating conflicts. Don't have the same person, different persons change the same thing. Okay? So I'm going to use branches to simulate. Like one person is going to work on a new branch called color. So now imagine that it is George that is going to change this button to green because he likes green a lot. Let's change this to green. And George is going to commit his changes and say change it to green. Now I'm going back to the original project. And I decided, I'm going to change this to red. So both of us are changing the exact same thing. I'm going to commit. And I'm going to say change it to red. Now, when I try to merge both changes into a final project, okay, I have nothing to commit. Kalipso is comparing, and it says you have one conflict, and I'm going to see what that conflict is. And it's telling me, well, the background of button 1 in the login form was changed by 2 different persons. Okay, one changed it to red and another to green. And it's asking you, what do you want to do? Well, I think I like the green also. So I'm keeping the incoming version from George, and I'm going to merge into a final version with this conflict solved manually by me. Okay? Okay, so I have the final version in green. Okay? So another example, like I did in the background color, this can also happen in code, in action. For example, if I create a new branch and call it code, and imagine that George now decided to change the content of this message box to average and commits his work. Message change. And now I go to the original project and I also decided to change it to something else. I'm going to change this message to value. Value plus the variable. So once again, change it to value. If I try to merge, Kalipso should give me a conflict telling me that, again, two developers made changes to the same thing. Kalipso is comparing, and now it tells me you have a conflict. Once again, let's go. Also, it was in the looper image to click in the actions. The message box has a conflict. Okay? It tells me modified both in source and target. One change it to average, the other change it to value. What do you want to do? You need to fix this conflict. And I'm going to say keep mine, I prefer value. Merge. And now Kalipso will create a version, with my change of this code. But this is something you should avoid in production projects. Okay? And just to show a different kind of conflict that has more options when it's being solved. And I'll finish this because it's been a long session now. So, final example. I'm going to create another branch and I'm calling it control. So imagine that now George decided to add a label here to the menu saying menu. Okay? But he is lazy and he left the name of this label as label 1. He commits his changes. Label menu. And now in my version of the project, I'm also lazy, so I'm also going to create a label, and I'm not going to change its name. I will leave it as label 1 and call it Philippe, and have the content Philippe. Let's change here. Okay. So I'm going to try to merge the control made by George. He's warning me, you have to commit, so I added the Philippe label. And now it's merging. And it says another conflict has happened. What is it? Both of the developers created something called label 1. So what do you want to do? Keep George's version, keep my version, or keep them both? I want to keep them both. And I'm going to merge them. And as you can see, I have a final version with both labels. This is still label 1. This has been renamed to label 20 by Kalipso, so we can have both controls in the same application. So Git is a very powerful tool. We want to finish this very quickly, and for that we need your help. Please, if you start using it, give us feedback on how it's working on your side so we can create the final version very quickly. Okay? We will be working also in adding more options here. As you see, I have all the commit history, and we want to add a few more options so I can compare what was done in this version, what was done in this version. We are going to add more features to the Git, but we want to make sure everything is working correctly. Okay? So thank you for attending this session. I am going to talk to you next about a few more things related to Kalipso. Okay? Don't know if João needs to tell you something.
Philip, I think you told us all. Thank you. Thank you very much for this great presentation of Android Debugger and also about Git. And because we have a lot of questions, without further ado, I will pass again the word to Philippe. He will give us some final considerations, and then we will start the question and answer part. Thank you, everyone, for being with us, for bearing with us still. And we are very, very grateful to have you with us.
Hi. So, required versions for Android. It's now version 6. So Kalipso 5 worked on Android 4.4. Now it works on version 6 or higher, okay? iOS also is required to use iOS version 14 or higher, okay? And Windows 10, it's version 20H1, okay? It was released in 2020. One other note, Win32 client from Kalipso should run on any Windows 10 version, but we are starting to consider it a deprecated version, okay? Because in the future, we are going to create a new Windows version, a unified Windows version. Okay? Yes, true? Okay. So, and another thing is Windows CE is not available anymore, okay? So, we will continue to support Kalipso 5 for another year. And if you're still worried about projects that may go over 1 year, well, Windows CE or Windows Mobile is dead for over a decade. And we do not expect it to stop working because nothing is changing. Okay? Okay. Nothing is changing in Windows CE. So even after the end of support for Kalipso 5, we expect it to continue to work like it did before for many more years. Okay? So I don't think it's a problem there. But if you still have projects that you need to deploy to Windows CE, you will need to keep them in Kalipso 5. Okay? So Kalipso 6 is ready. Okay. So what we are going to do tomorrow, we are going to update every license for Kalipso users that have a Kalipso license with support contract. We are going to update them to Kalipso 6, and on Monday you will be able to download version 6 and use it. Okay. So there was a very big work done in this new version of Kalipso. That's why, mainly because of Git. Okay, there's a lot of work done with Git. But now that's almost finished, we are going to start releasing new updates in Kalipso, like Kalipso 6.1 and 0.2, with new features more frequently. Every 3 or 4 months, we will have new versions of Kalipso with new features and have more things delivered to you. And we'll also have a stricter enforcement of access to new releases, because in Kalipso 5, it was all Kalipso 5. Some users that did not have support contracts had access to new features. So this will not be the case anymore. And small fixes will be made available as it did before in Kalipso 5. So the idea, like I told you, is tomorrow our job is going to be updating your license to version 6, okay? Updating our servers with version 6, and on Monday you can download it and start using it, okay? Okay, and just roadmap on the most important features. There are a lot of new things that we want to do, but these are the ones more important or bigger ones that we want to do. So the first thing that we want to do is finish Git, okay? So you saw it, it's working, but it's in a beta state. Don't use it in production. Give us feedback if you can. And we are still going to add some improvements to it, like version comparison. So between this version and this version, I'd like to see in Kalipso what changed. Okay, so we are going to add these features also into Git inside Kalipso Designer, and a few more things. Okay, so we want to finish Git. We are also working in artificial intelligence integration inside Kalipso. Okay, this was not scheduled, but I think I can make you a 1-minute demo of something that we already have, but it's not available to you. Okay, let me see if I can go back to screen sharing. I think I can. Okay. Okay, so you can see my screen, yes? So let me just give you just a quick look of something that we have been working on. Okay, so for example, I want to create a new form in Kalipso, okay? And I'm going to tell Kira, that it's the Kalipso assistant, what I want to do. Okay, I want a form to make inventory. I need a field for the barcode, a label for the product description, another field for the quantity. I want a button to validate, another to cancel, and another for the user to click for getting help. Okay, so I'm just typing in the form that I want to use in Kalipso, and I'm going to ask Kira if she can generate this form. So it takes a couple of seconds for Kira to create and design the new form. Okay, let me just see. This was not scheduled, so it's work in progress. Let's see if it works. Okay. Okay, it worked. So what you are seeing here was done automatically by artificial intelligence. Okay. So this is something that we are working on, and we will improve also, because the logic would be he would have created the structure but applied the theme of my application. We want to add a lot of new features into this. This is something that we are actively working on. Okay, so it's interesting. So let me go back to the presentation. Okay. Okay. So we're working in artificial intelligence. This is not the only thing we'll have more things, okay? We also want to work on iOS and Windows debugger. So what you saw is for Android, okay? The debugger is for Android, and we are going to do the same for iOS and for Windows, okay? Something that we are analyzing is having a MAS communicator version for Linux, okay? We're looking into this for some time now, and we are checking if this is something that we can do. Kalipso Voice, okay? We have a few users of Kalipso Voice. Kalipso Voice is not available yet for version 6, but it will be in a couple of months, okay? And like I said before, the Win32 client we have is deprecated in version 6. In the future, we want to create a unified version for Windows, okay? Because the big problem that we have in the Windows 10 client of Kalipso is that it works in a sandbox environment like it does on Android. but we don't like this very much on Windows. So the idea is to have a new client, unified client for Windows that has all the new cool things that we have in Windows 10 client, but it has access to all the file system, to the serial ports, etc. Okay. And just a final note, I think that I only know of a couple of persons or customers using the App Center from Microsoft, but Microsoft closed App Center, or is going to close in the end of this month. So we are looking for alternatives, okay, and also improvements to the integration that we have with App Center, okay. So this is the most important things that I wanted to mention. We have some time now, I think, João, for some of the questions. I saw a lot of questions here. I don't know if we have time to answer them all, but I think we can try to answer at least the most important or a few of them. And our support team is available to answer you other questions that we can't answer in this webinar. But if you send us an email, we'll be glad to help you. Okay? So, João, can we see the questions? Okay, iOS and Windows. I think you were asking about the debugger. I just told you about this. Okay. I don't know if the question is this, if the debugger is available for iOS and Windows. But what we are going to do is translating the Android debugger to iOS and Windows. So we hope to have it soon also. Okay. Okay, switching to the other languages is it possible in the login screen? So yes, the idea of Kalipso projects in multi-language, this is from version 5. In version 4, it exists for a long time in Kalipso. So you can add actions code in your login screen. So the user selects the language and the entire application will change the language, the execution language at runtime. Okay. I don't know if this was the question or not, but I hope it was. So animated GIFs. This is actually something we have made a couple of tests. We are not sure if we are going to be able to integrate this in all of the clients or not. This is why we have not made it available yet. But I do know that we have some customers using the HTML control to show animated GIFs, okay? Because as you know, since Kalipso, in Kalipso 5, you already have this. You can put an HTML control on the screen and just put HTML body and the image, the animated GIF, and you will have an animated GIF on the screen, okay? So next. So this is 100% yes, okay? If you have a project in Kalipso 5, you just open it in Kalipso 6 and it's ready to use, okay? So it's a very, very simple migration step. If you are worried about problems that may happen with this migration, okay, let me tell you something about the differences between version 5 to version 6. So on the designer side, there is a huge, huge, huge work that was done, okay? On the client side, we kept things straight. So from a technical point of view, I could just pick up in a Kalipso 5 project and send it to Kalipso 6 client and it would work, okay? So on the device at runtime, it is very stable. We do not expect that problems come up, okay? So the migration from version 5 to version 6 is very, very easy, okay? It is not possible to migrate from previous versions directly to 6. So imagine you have a project in Kalipso 3. Imagine this. And you want to put it in Kalipso 6. So you have to do it in 2 steps at this point. You have to open it in Kalipso 5 to convert it, and then in Kalipso 6. But we are checking if we can make full migration capacity in Kalipso 6, okay? Templates of icons. So I do not know exactly what's the objective here, but as I showed you in the first session, so you can create your own icon collection, okay? Edit an icon, make the changes you want, put it in that collection, and then use it in other projects. And the icons that you have in that collection, you can open them and edit them again, edit the icons again, make other changes, save them in your own icon collection. Okay, so this is possible. A pull to refresh feature, this I think was what George showed in the looper, that you pull from, swipe from up to down, and it made a refresh, an automatic refresh. So this is a new feature in Kalipso 6, yes. Not yet, okay? So this is one of the next things that we are analyzing, the work of making this migration of MAS communicator to Linux, okay? So at this point, we cannot give you a timeline, but this is something that we want to do, okay? We actually have one of our colleagues is trying to build a Docker image for Linux having MAS communicator using Vine. Okay, Vine is an emulator for Windows that runs on Linux, and he's trying to build a Docker image to have MAS communicator running on a Linux server. Okay, is there a way like multi-language support? So this is built into Kalipso. Okay, it's not from version 6. In Kalipso, you do have multi-language support. Okay, I did not show this because this is something that it's sold, but you can have your application developed in multiple languages and change it at runtime. So I think this was before my presentation, and as you saw it on Android, you now have hot reload, instantaneously test the changes you made. So, and it's much faster, the debugger is much faster now, okay? So yes, okay. So I don't understand very well this question, but if the question is if you can compile an IPA file for iOS, it's an IPA, not an APK, directly on Windows, no, you can't. Okay. The main reason for this is because Apple does not allow it. Okay. So if we want to follow Apple's rules, NIPA needs to be compiled on a Mac, on a real Mac. It cannot be compiled on Windows. Okay, so since Kalipso 5 and Kalipso 6, this is still the same. What we build is we build a compile script that you need to copy to a Mac and execute the script, and it builds an IPA for iOS. Okay, so this is still the same. We do not have a date picker directly, but I don't know if what you are asking is about selecting a date. The keyboard action has an option that says calendar. Okay, so if you run the keyboard action with option calendar, a date picker will show. Okay, I don't know if this answers the question, but give it a try. Okay. Can the Kalipso splash showing a client be hidden on launch? So this is something that we want to improve in version 6. Okay, we have a couple of customers that have asked us this, and we are going to work. I think we made some improvements related to this in version 6, but in some situations you still see the K from Kalipso when it's updating, and we are trying to work on fixing this so it does not show anything related to Kalipso on your app. Okay. So an option to create, I think here you want to create controls dynamically, okay? This is not something that it's easy to do inside Kalipso, okay? It's not something that we will have in a short term. It's a request that we have for some time, and we are still studying on ways we can use to do this, but it will probably not be available in the next months, okay? This isn't something that we have been asked for some time now. In this version, it's not possible yet, but when we created these themes, it's something that we try to structure in a way to make it be possible in the future, to change in runtime, okay? But not yet. Also not yet, okay? We do not yet have a slider, okay? But I think it's something that it's in our to-do list, and it's something that's relatively easy. So it's possible that we can have it not very far from now. Now in Calypso 5 we can only find, but just for one. Okay. So yes, in version 6 you can filter the variables by name. If this is what you were asking, yes, it's possible to filter by name. Yeah. Okay, so the integration that we have in Calypso, it's Git, not GitHub, it's Git. Okay, so anything that uses the standard Git protocol can be used in Calypso. Actually, in SysDev, we do not use GitHub. I just used it for this demo because it's the most commonly used. But for example, in SysDev, we use Azure DevOps Git repositories to put our code, and we can use Calypso to put in Azure Azure DevOps, in GitHub, in GitLab. As long as it is a Git system, it can be used. Okay? So we have scheduled in short term to release actions for MQTT. Okay. So I am not sure yet what kind of integration will be available in Calypso, but it will be available, I think, in the next months. Next 2 or 3 months, we'll have integration for MQTT. Okay. Can you do Kanban in Calypso? I think this is something that we showed in the tasks. I don't know if this is the question or not, but George showed this part in the task where you see the tasks that we have to do. We have a Kanban style for you to put the state of your tasks in. So if that's the question, yes, you have. So I think we have, okay, via Weblet or adding language translation file. So in Calypso, like I said, we have multi-language, okay? We have tools to make automatic language translation, okay? And we also have tools to export an Excel file with the texts from the application. You can translate them somewhere and import back to Calypso the Excel file with translations done, okay? This is already possible in version 5 and version 4. So, about licensing, okay, customers that have a license to version 5 and have a maintenance contract active will have no costs to use version 6, okay? If you do not have any maintenance contract with us, there's an upgrade cost. But I think that more than 90% of our customers do have maintenance contracts. So for them, there will be no costs in the migration to version 6. So this is the hot reload that I showed. So this is probably before. Okay, next. So no, the answer to this is no. Like you are explaining, so our source files are still in a binary form, okay? We kept our source files compatible with version 5, in fact. So outside of Calypso Designer, you will see a commit history. For example, in GitHub, you will see a commit history. You'll see the text that I wrote in my demo, the text explaining the commit will show in GitHub saying what you did, but you cannot have a visual comparison of differences. Okay, you will have to compare inside Calypso. Okay, this was already possible in version 5. Okay, in version 5 we had a media player control, so you can do it in version 5 and version 6. Yes, you can. Which problems can we have when migrating from version 5 to version 6? Well, I don't expect many problems. Like I said, on the runtime side, Calypso 6 client would technically be able to run a Calypso 5 project. So we don't expect migration problems, okay? So it should be a smooth transition. So for sure, okay, we already started doing this. We already started updating our help files. And on Monday, when we release Calypso 6 for download, we will also release the help for version 6 that has the new functions, new actions, etc. Okay. Okay, so this was also already talked internally. This is something that we want to do because we also use Figma internally for some other things. and it's like an internal and external request we have in Kalipso team to have the ability to import Figma into Kalipso. It's not yet possible, but it's a request that we have received several times. iOS is also, I'm not 100% sure in here, but I think that we are also using MLKit on iOS, okay? But if this is something that's very important for you, send us an email to support and we'll double check, okay? Is the camera preview dependent on the Android version? No, this should work in any Android version, okay? So like I said, the minimum requirements for version 6 is also Android version 6, okay? So we expect it to work on any Android version, okay? A community of developers. So this is something that we have guys in our team working on, is creating a forum, an active online forum, so we can evolve our developer community and they can interact between themselves independently, okay? So yes, we are working on this. Yes, like I said, in any system where you integrate the Gits, you can see the commits history. In Kalipso, you can see the commits history, and in Kalipso, we'll be able to compare versions of commits. Okay. No, MLKit is free. Okay, we do not need to purchase licenses for MLKit. It's free. It's from Google, but for now it's still free. I don't know if Google will change this in the future, but for now it's free. Okay, so this is a little bit tricky question. Can we use a local database to store the data? So this is already possible in version 5. So in version 5, and even in version 4, if you have a SQLite database, and you know that an SQLite database is a single file, okay? So if, for example, you put this file inside your files to send folder in your project, it will be sent to the device. And in Kalipso 5, it was already possible to connect to that SQLite database and use it directly, okay? I don't know if this answers the question, but if it was not the correct answer for the question, send us an email and we'll help you with this. Okay. Any more questions? João? Yes? Okay. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. In my PC, I have Kalipso 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 installed in this moment. Okay, so it's possible. So the answer for this is, like I said, if you have terminals within the CE, keep your projects in Kalipso 5, okay? And like I said, we'll fully support Kalipso 5 for another year, okay? It will just not receive new features, but most of these new features that we are adding into Kalipso cannot be used on a Windows CE mobile device. It's not possible, okay? There is no, for example, MLKit that we were talking about, there is no MLKit for Windows CE, Windows Mobile. So it's not possible to build new things for Windows CE, Windows Mobile. So in this case, if you have projects for these devices, keep them in Kalipso 5. And like I said, even a year from now, when we stop supporting bug fixes or Android changes, there are no changes in Windows CE and Windows Mobile. So things should work for another 10 years like they do today, okay? Los backups, se van sem Git só dos arquivos KZP e KPD. I'm not understanding very well the objective here, but the KZP is the compiled version of Kalipso. So a compiled version is not normally something you want to backup. Okay, what you want to backup is the source of your project, and in our integration with Git, we integrate. We send the source to Git to be saved. If you need to generate a KZP, you just get the source and compile it. Okay, don't know exactly the idea here. Okay? Kalipso reports. Not sure what's the question here about Kalipso reports. No. Okay. If there are new features inside Calypso reports, not many. In the designer side, yes, it was improved because in version 5 it was very glitchy. Okay, the designer side was improved a lot. It's much easier to work in version 6 for reports. But as of new features for the reports themselves, there aren't any that I can remember. Okay. I'll ask Kira, okay? I think she's in the other room. I'll ask her. Are you going to improve Start as a service mode in Calypso to work with? So I don't know exactly what's the idea here, okay? For Android, you can already have apps since Calypso 5 running as a service, okay? If it's for Windows, we do not have a direct option for that, but there's a tool from Microsoft that transforms or makes any executable to work as a service. Okay, but since I did not understand very well what do you want to do with this, just email us to the support, tell us exactly what you are trying to do, and we'll help you with it. Okay. Next question. Yeah. Can we display a PDF inside the Calypso app? Yes, there are two different ways for you to do this. Okay. One is to use the HTML control. Okay. I think we have a sample for that. If you don't find a way to do it, email to our support that I have, because I think we have created a sample for that to display a PDF inside the HTML control. And there's another way you can do it. Okay, it's not as practical as the HTML control, but I've seen some customers doing it. So in Calypso, there's something you can do. You can create a bitmap printer or JPEG printer, an image printer, and you can print a PDF into images. So imagine you have a PDF with 5 pages. In Calypso, you can use the print action to print it to image files. Okay. And now that we have the 5 image files, you can put it in an image control and a navigator button to change between pages. Okay. So these are the two options you have for showing a PDF inside Calypso. Okay, on the looper, not yet. This is also something in our to-do list, to have the swipe on the looper cells, like you're saying, to delete an item, etc. It's in our to-do list, but it's not yet available, okay? So for this question, similar answer for MQTT. We have been working on it and we expect it to be available in Calypso 6 in the next 2-3 months, okay? In beta 6, I can connect. I think I know. I think a colleague of mine has told me about this. It's actually possible. There's an option there if they haven't answered you yet. In the database settings, in advanced settings, that's ANSI codes. You have it in automatic. If you put it off, it will work in Calypso 6. We have to see what changed in the Calypso designer in the automatic option that in MES SQL is activating it and it shouldn't. Okay, but it is possible to use in Kalipso 6. Here I'm not sure what's the purpose, okay? So if you have an Android app, it's possible to run it on a Windows PC already without changing anything. But if you designed it for a smartphone, okay, it will not look very good because it's not adapted. If you run it on Windows, it will stretch and it will not look very good. If you design it for tablet, it will probably look very good already if you run it directly on Windows device. But if it was for smartphone, there is also not something that it's easy to do automatically. This is probably something, and it's a good idea now that you're talking about it, something that might be interesting for us to do or try to do with artificial intelligence, okay? Maybe we are going to ask Kira, can you transform this screen that was designed for an Android smartphone into a Windows layout and see what she can do? it's a cool one. And we're going to take note of this and try to do something like that. Okay. Next. Vine. I'm not sure the exact name, but I think it's Vine with a V. I'm not a Linux specialist. With a W? Yeah. Wine, but Vine. Not the Windows emulator for Linux. It's called Vine, no? I think, yeah. Will it be possible to install Windows 10 app for all users? Okay, not sure the question here. If it's possible to install Windows 10 app for all users. I'm not getting the question, the purpose of the question. So I would suggest you send an email to our support asking, telling us what you want to do, and we will try to answer, because with just this description, I'm not seeing the problem or the purpose. So in version 6, it's actually has not been changed. This is like in version 5. But we do plan to improve the way that the tab headers are designed so you can control it yourself. So the idea that we have for this is, I don't know if you checked it on an image control in Kalipso, you have an advanced option there that you can say, okay, put the image here, put the text in this position, and you can control it yourself completely. We want to do the same thing for tab controls, okay? But this is not done yet, okay? So when I think João is telling me that we have no more questions, okay? If something was left unanswered, please send us an email, contact us through our support. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. And I want to apologize for the sound problems that we had. We do not have much experience with this. And we try to divide ourselves in different rooms inside our company. Not all rooms are perfect for this, we know. So maybe next time we'll go to some other place that has better conditions for sound. We are sorry for that, but I hope you could learn from our webinar. And we will also make this available online. The recording of this webinar will be available online, okay? So you can see it later and see what you've missed, okay? Thank you very much, and hope to see you soon, and give us feedback on the new version, okay?
I think I was muted. Again, in the name of SysDev, thank you very much for being with us. And we hope that you have a great experience with Kalipso 6. And we hope to see your feedback in the following days. See you soon. Bye.